So beside hosting the See Indonesia Culinary Experience, Kevindra is also a food writer and he has published several culinary books and articles. He chose this career because he loves food, definitely.
Yes.
Due to his fondness for cooking and exploring the culinary world. Some of Kevin's books include Eat, My Boy.
Yes, I will.
Which was released on May the 25th this year, and Jakarta, A Dining History, published on December the 15th last year. In addition, he has written cookbooks on international cuisines. Let's find out more about his journey and see the Indonesian culinary experience with Kevindra.
Right now, without further ado, we have Kevindra here with us in the studio.
Here in the studio. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course,
Yeah, it's
Kevin.
a great
Oh,
honor.
by the way, prior to every interview in See Today's studio, we've always had the antigen test. So can we just take off the mask for once? All right.
Yeah, and
I
we're going to talk
love
about
it.
food, right? So
Yeah.
we want to see
So-
your full
This is your
expression.
full expression
Expression of
because,
face.
you know, when you eat,
Yeah.
the most interesting thing for me is the expression.
Exactly, the expression.
The first thing why I like cooking because I would love to see somebody's face that time when they taste the food for the first time.
Yeah, and actually,
love that.
and cooking actually tickles all of your sensors.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. It plays the most of your senses, like sound, like even the flavor, the texture. It's just evoke all these nuances in your body.
It hit different when it comes to from
Amazing.
food critics.
Yeah.
No, Kevin,
We
you
have
recently
barely
released
started.
released a book about Indonesian culinary and food traditions. Can you
Yes.
tell us the background behind the book?
Oh, it's really interesting. So my book, my latest book, is about Jakarta dining history. So I started on the place where I was born and the place that I know best, which is Jakarta. Even we talk about Jakarta, the city has countless of dining and eatery options that which the city has been since the beginning, a melting pot of Indonesian food culture. So that's why I created a book. I wrote the book about that to showcase the people that, hey, even when you talk about Jakarta alone, you have so many things to savor, to enjoy, to indulge
It's
in.
like the El Talash of Indonesia, right?
Exactly. It's like the perfect, I would say the perfect, window display of Indonesian food at its best. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the idea behind the book. And I do believe after that, I'm going to write lots of food books again upcoming.
Sure, we are waiting for that.
Yeah, we're waiting
Certainly.
for that. But I mean, we know that a lot of delicious food in this world.
Yeah.
We know that Thai food is very well known as well globally.
Yes.
French, we know about their very
Vietnamese. If we
yeah.
talk about Asian,
True, and I'm sure you are well aware of those. But why do you
Quite
choose
like it,
specific
yes.
Indonesian culinary? Is it because you're Indonesian, but probably not because only because of that, right? Because there's a potential that you have been foreseeing. What is it?
So it's really interesting that the eyes of the global foodies is now they're looking for new kinds of flavor to enjoy. They've been familiar with Thai food and Vietnamese, even Malay food for decades. But now they realize that, oh, there's this Indonesian food that I've never heard about, I've never tasted the food, but when they came here, or even when they tasted Indonesian food abroad, they was like, oh my gosh, that's totally different kinds of flavor profile. Even the story behind all the dishes, that's what intrigued them the most. Is the most interesting thing about the cuisine of Indonesia.
Now, from the eyes of a food critique, why do you think like Thai, Vietnamese, and even Filipino cuisines, when it comes to Asia, Japanese, Chinese, are actually worldwide? It actually well known globally. Globally. But Indonesian food seems like very far behind.
Far behind or under the radar.
Under the radar, yes.
So I think the first thing is about, actually we're quite lucky because we haven't got any kind of, the big issue that this country experienced, because the most significant thing about the globalization of those kinds of dishes of food cuisine that you just mentioned, is all because of the national crisis. Lots of migrants that got out of all of the country because of I think about the coup, the political issue during the 70s, during the 60s, the war. So they went everywhere. But Indonesia is quite lucky; we haven't got any of those kinds of issues.
Right.
But for decades after that, those people that resides now in almost every corner of the earth, they created their own community, and the community brought with them the food culture. And that's why we know that, we have great, like lots of, let's say, Korean community in the Los Angeles. We have this kind of interesting, like, Thai communities in the south of California, because all of those people migrate to those places.
Yeah, that's why they have Koreatown.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I mean, to become a culinary expert, you have to know the history as well. That's amazing.
Cheers, yeah.
Yeah.
I love to hear this.
Yeah, he's very good in that. But I want to know though, maybe my tongue is just very common, like the general people of this world's tongue. When you try Chinese food, for example, I prefer to have it outside China rather than having it in China. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what about Indonesian culinary? Do you think that we have more potential if we try to adjust our culinary to the taste of, the international taste sort of profile?
I think this is a very interesting argumentation about, because there is this kind of stigma that, when we go out, when we bring Indonesian food out of Indonesia, we have to somehow adapt to the local flavor.
Yeah.
It is true, but the global taste buds nowadays, they are more adventurous and changed. They're eager to try something. Of course, if it's spicy, they're willing to try the spicy.
Even
food.
if it's Indonesian spicy.
Even Indonesian spice.
Maybe with the levels, like
Yeah.
we
Yes,
used to have
of course,
here,
with the
right?
levels. When it comes to the leveling of the spiciness, we need to adapt a little bit.
Yeah,
but when
yeah.
it comes to the flavor, the boldness, we have to be, brave enough. And I think that's what makes Indonesian foods really shine, other than the neighboring cuisines of Southeast Asia. I had this interesting comments from one of the world's best chefs. So he came to Jogja and he came to Bali, only like a 1 week difference, and then he told me like, oh my gosh, Kevin, I can't believe that only not even 1 hour differences flight from Bali to Jakarta. The cuisine totally transformed differently. As
The
if
palate
both
is
of them,
different. Oh,
the palate is different, as if both of them, they come from different countries.
Yeah.
It was like, and I was like, and Indonesia is so big, it's so massive. We're not even talking about the people from Manado, the food of Manado. We even talk about Minangkabau, right? All different flavor profiles. So we have lots of things to offer in the global perspective.
And also, what I'm actually aware about Indonesian food is we're very rich in texture only by one menu. Only by one menu.
There's
we like to
crispiness.
plunge everything
Yeah.
And it's like party in your mouth and some sort
it
of
literally
things.
is.
What you said with the international chef from Bali to Yogyakarta, but I want to ask you personally, have you ever tasted every cuisine from the
Sabang
west
to
to the
Merauke.
east? Sabang to Merauke.
Oh gosh, it will take forever to be able to taste all
Yes.
of those Indonesian food. But I'm quite lucky. I've tasted several, interesting food outside of the big cities that we all know.
Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting experience that I had was when I went to Jailolo. And
Jailolo.
I got the opportunity to participate on their harvest celebration. And then during that harvest celebration, they offer this amazing array of freshly picked vegetables that they just boiled, steam with simplest of ingredients, but it tastes amazing. And you can feel that those food, because it's so fresh, it's so, like literally farm to table. It gives this nice effect to your body, and I said, oh my gosh, this is a very interesting experience. While we live in the big city, we have so many things to offer, but they, only with limited items, they're able to create gastronomic delights.
Well, that's how amazing it is. I mean, having Indonesia has so many variety of cuisines. I mean, when you talk about West Sumatran, for example, the dishes there, rendang. If you need to make rendang for hours, right?
Hours.
You cannot mess with that.
Exactly. And on the other side, you have pecel or gado-gado, which is so fresh and all that.
Alaminate,
Yes. So what are actually the differences that you think is the potential, again, when you see profiles of cuisines from Java, Sumatra, and other provinces?
I think the biggest advantage that we have is the ingredients. Ingredients always play a very important role in the global flavor profile. Because we're quite lucky, we're very blessed, to have this, surrounded by this amazing topography and climate. That thus, it helps on, the amazing products and flavor profile that we all have from Sabang to Merauke, all different, all have this interesting. For example, I went to New Delhi and I tasted their shallots, right? With the local bawang merah, I was like, the size is actually the same, but the flavor, it's more intense and richer.
I see.
On our cuisine. So I was like, oh my God, that's how important ingredients actually that differentiate all this.
Oh, you're talking about the taste when it's raw or when
it's raw?
When it's raw.
The types of shallots that make you cry when you try.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so intense. But I think that's the ingredient that plays a big part. And number two is, of course, the story and the culture behind.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just heartwarming everywhere you go to, all places in Indonesia. Each of the dishes, they have different stories to tell.
Yeah.
As if the dish itself is like, it immortalizes the culture in every bite of the food.
Wow,
right?
that's deep.
Can I say to our producer, can we have him once a week?
Probably with the food on the table,
I
Hans.
love talking about this.
Yeah, I know.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
No, speaking of culinary trends, we can see how they thrive here in Indonesia.
Yeah.
But in your opinion, at the moment, which dish is the most popular right now?
That's the toughest question. Okay, the most popular. When I speak about the traditional food of Indonesia, the east part of Indonesia is gaining more attention nowadays, right? For decades, we are more focused on the food from West and Central Indonesia.
True.
But now, I know in the past 3 years, 4 years, our focus is going more into the east of Indonesia with those simplicity. And then the creativity that the people bring in, to the bigger city and how they recreate all of those dishes. So what I'm really interested about is, I'm looking at this opportunity of us experiencing what I call as the new Indonesian cuisine. Wow. So if you see in the global perspective nowadays, lots of new generations, they're trying to recreate or even re-evaluate what kind of cooking that I have to use with this type of ingredients. For example, in the future, actually these days, there are chefs that's trying to, okay, I'm using kluwak usually for rawon, right?
Yes.
But what can I do else with kluwak?
What else?
What else? So it's now happening all around Indonesia and the world.
Yeah.
So we are expecting to see the emergence of new Indonesian food. The Indonesian food that we have never seen before. For example, we talk about sate taichan. In the past 5 years or 10 years, we've never heard those kind of dishes.
I never.
You never. Even ayam geprek, for example.
Right. Yeah.
That's example of a new Indonesian dishes.
Yeah.
What else? The es kopi susu with gula aren.
Yes, true.
Although all of the elements is actually, it's familiar elements. We never thought that combining gula aren with kopi and with the milk, and they created this delicious,
remarkable. I have to say remarkable.
Yeah.
Like as kopi susu gula aren.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tested all Indonesians right now. Probably their sugar level has been rising a bit because of that trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. At least the sugar farmer is happy now.
At least.
At least.
But I mean, what's your hope to see? Indonesia has so many potentials in this culinary, not only industry, but how do we thrive in terms of culinary?
Okay, I think that one of the most important thing is that we really need to understand that to be able to ensure the popularity of Indonesian food globally is not only the task of one person or one individual. It is a collective effort, right? Restaurant, government, chef, culinary intellectuals, people who eat, right? Why you have to complain of paying like a bowl of good rawon for 125,000 rupiah while you eat, I don't know, tasteless food in some of the modern cafe for 200,000 rupiah.
True.
I mean, those kinds of respect to our own culture, that needs to be emphasized, and we need to see that more often, right?
Yeah.
It's a big attraction as well for tourists.
Exactly, the gastro-diplomacy.
You were actually mentioning about the dishes from the East, the menus from the East, the cuisines and something like that. My dad is from the East. My dad is from the Rote Island. From the East Nusa Tenggara. Even I don't know why actually. What is actually the cuisines traditionally there? Can you even tell me?
You've been living for long in urban city.
Can you tell us the examples of the cuisines from the East?
That's really interesting thing because the cuisine from the East is more simpler, right? It's fresh, it's smoked, or even it's served raw.
love that.
It's as simple as that. Because
the materials
the
are
material
very
is
fresh.
exactly.
So is it
very
mostly
fresh.
beef, fish?
Yes, fish and seafood and everything that's very fresh. And that's really interesting. Whilst we see in the west parts of Indonesia, everything is more bold and cooked and, diverse of flavor, slow cooked. And I think that's what's really interesting about Indonesia. Even from sambal, we see that from the east to the west, we have so many kinds of sambal. But if you see the transformation of sambal from the west right to the east, it's starting to change. Like, for example, when you go to the west of Indonesia, the sambal is cooked and then it's grounded and it's very sticky, oily, right?
Wow.
And in the central, when you get to Bali, the texture of the sambal is starting to change.
Yeah.
You see the sambal is being sliced.
Yeah.
And then when you go to the east, sambal is not cooked at all, it's served raw.
True.
So it's the transformation. We can see how it transforms.
It's interesting when you make a book about
I have to agree to that.
Yeah.
Because traditionally, my family, we used to have sambal, sort of like Mexican salsa.
Yeah, it's like a salsa, exactly.
Mexican salsa.
Yeah.
Love it. We can't stop talking about food, but